the first time in months, there are no explosions happening in Gaza. People are going back to what is left of their homes and thinking about rebuilding their lives. But human society doesn't work without some kind of government. So who should run Gaza now? Who will Israel allow to run Gaza now? Let's speak to Richard Spencer, the Times correspondent in Tel Aviv. Morning to you, Richard.
Good morning.
Are we any clearer on what the options are?
Not really. Well, we know some options that have been floated. The obvious one, the one that might be said to be coherent in terms of world policy, is to put the Palestinian Authority in charge, or back in charge. Legally, Gaza and the West Bank are both part of the Palestinian territories, the occupied Palestinian territories, as they've always been known. Since Israel pulled out of Gaza in 2005, they've been in a slightly different position because Israel still has security control over and inside the West Bank. But they're still supposed to be part of the Palestinian Authority. But of course, Hamas took over. There was a sort of a mini civil war. Now Hamas have been smashed up by Israel. The logical position for the rest of the world, which never sort of really recognized Hamas, is to put it back under the control of Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian president. A lot of Palestinians don't really like him very much. That's the big problem with that. He's been in power for 20 years. There have been no elections. His administration is widely regarded as corrupt, and Israel also doesn't like him. He has a sort of he's quite difficult for them to get on with. Benjamin Netanyahu says he's not going to accept that. He's not going to accept Hamas returning to power, which is obviously what they want to do. They've made various offers in advance of the ceasefire about how they would manage a civilian administration or even give up a civilian administration, but that will be contingent on them having military power, which Israel doesn't want. There have been suggestions about, peacekeeping forces, Arab peacekeeping forces, some sort of government backed by the Gulf states, both politically and with money. Of course, the Gulf states have long interest in Palestinian affairs, and Qatar has been the main mediator on this whole process on the sort of on the Palestinian side. But they are not going to put troops on the ground. They don't want to get too closely involved. That could be a nightmare for them. Israel has talked about putting local clan chiefs in power, as if it was some sort of Ottoman Empire dealing with sort of local notables. That's been sort of rather roundly dismissed by the Palestinians. But who knows? I mean, they are the power on the ground at the moment.
Yeah.
This all is to be negotiated during this three-phase ceasefire deal. Of course, that does also depend on that ceasefire deal, remaining
holding.
a ceasefire until the end.
And Hamas themselves, I mean, if they're not going to be, if they're not going to be involved in any way, what do you expect them to do? Melt away? Continue to be present? I don't quite understand what the future is for them.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious conclusion, certainly looking at those images from the hostage release, is that they'll stay there. I mean, they are. There's big question over the word defeat and victory, what it means in this conflict. What it never seems to mean is the conflict stopping, which is normally a sign of one side or other winning. Hamas is still there. They are clearly weakened, but they've made new recruits from the sort of angry young men of Gaza, of whom there are many. They are still able to muster a force and organize and indeed negotiate. So they are still there. There is no other military force in Gaza of any strength apart from, a couple of smaller Hamas allies. Israel has stopped this war without eradicating Hamas. So Hamas is still there, and it's hard to see why at this stage they would then just hand over their weapons and leave.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the point, Richard. Thank you very much for that. That's Richard Spencer. He's a Times correspondent in Tel Aviv. It is surely true to say that Gaza is in a terrible mess, But amid that, for the first time in months, children are reported to be playing outside again. The ceasefire has made them safe from the bombs, at least for a while. So let's go to Gaza and talk to Ahmed Abu Razik. He is the founder of the Gaza Great Minds Foundation. It educates children in tent classrooms and provides psychological support. Good morning to you, Ahmed.
Good morning, Esma. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you, and how does it feel? Does it feel different today where you are?
Yes, sure it is. It's, a day without bombs, a day without warplanes hovering above our heads. Yes, it's another day, another journey.
Is it completely quiet?
Kind of. There are some drones hovering from time to time. I don't know if you can hear them, but not before. Yeah.
And tell us a bit about what you have been doing. I said that your foundation educates children in tent classrooms. Has that been going on over the last 15 months? And how does it work? Where is safe for the tent classrooms?
Good point. Okay. This all started on the 1st of May. I was walking in one of Gaza's streets, hearing the ambulance here and there, and seeing our children are running just after a parachute bag to bring a bag of flour, a bag of sugar. We were really, really starving. Destruction was everywhere. Dead bodies were everywhere. So as a teacher, I felt like, no, this is not like we should do something. I have to do something. I'm a teacher. I'm supposed to change the world. So I start with international community help with my friends outside Gaza. We start to make an initiative. We said, okay, if this war's will be for a long time, we should do something. So we start to make a tent, and the first tent that we made, it was from the parachute bags. We tried to find a place, an environment, so we can, teach these children and help them psychologically. So on the first day, we start a tent. It was on the 15th of May, and we expected 50 students to come. But after 2 days, there were over 200 students want to study. So we had to make it bigger. So we start the first tent, the second tent, the third, the fourth, and now we have 5 tents all over Gaza Strip, giving them academic study and psychological support. And we are trying to, put some seeds of hope on them that the world will never let you down. With the community that we have outside Gaza, we try to, share messages from and to Gaza Strip, from those friends, from my friends outside Gaza. Gaza Great Minds is a foundation now registered in the UK, and we are trying to change the reality here in Gaza. This is us. Yes, it wasn't safe, but no place in Gaza was safe, especially after targeting UNRWA schools and other schools and everywhere, hospitals, churches, mosques, and everywhere. So we couldn't just stand or stay without doing anything. So Gaza Great Minds came.
And I mean, you say targeting, and I mean, I have to say that, the IDF would say that they targeted buildings because they had information that Hamas or weapons or whatever were stored there. That's what they would say. I suppose I'm more interested, really, Ahmad, in the kind of psychological support you're giving to these children. Like, what do they come to you and say, and what are you, how actually are you able to help them?
Okay, talking about that, in every tent we have a psychiatric, highly qualified psychiatric. On the first days when we were asking them about how you feel, all of them just want to, leave this universe or just die like their beloved ones, because they didn't believe that the coming days are going to be happy days for them. So the thing is, the psychiatric with psychosocial activities try to make them love life again, love education again. As I said before, the hope is the most important thing in this life. And with the psychiatric activities or the psychosocial activities, we try to focus on hope. That's why I said that we are sharing messages from and to Gaza. For example, Asma, you can send a message to a Gazan here to motivate him to continue studying, and he will send back a message to you. So how does this reflect to him? He will feel happy. He will feel, no, I want to study because Asma sent me a message, and I will be creative in the coming days. And that way we help them, and we hope after war, now in this ceasefire and in the coming few months, as there's no schools running in Gaza, we need a lot of time to rebuild schools. We believe that we can help the students more because now war is over. And the psychiatric said, as long as there's war, the students will be traumatized and the hard work starts once the war ended. So now the war ended. So now is the hard work.
And just finally, you talked about rebuilding. I don't expect you to know the answer to this, but maybe you've thought about it. How long do you think before these children have their schools rebuilt and back, and they're going back to school normally as they were, before all of this happened, before all of this started?
I think we need more than a year to rebuild these schools. Not just because of the rebuilding, Asma, but we are talking about these partly destroyed schools now are shelters for Gazans. So once we find a place for those families to live in and rebuild or redecorate these schools, I think it will be the time of our students coming back. It's not just a matter of rebuilding, but the people or the families in these schools are really living in dire situation and they need a better place.
Ahmed, thank you very much for talking to us. That's Ahmed Abu Razik. He's the founder of the Gaza Great Minds Foundation. It educates children in tent classrooms and provides psychological support.